Zaldrizes buzdaris daur.
You have to have both. Technical knowledge can be learned. Creativity can't.
So how do you create a language?
Oh, that is a really big question that we could answer in 3 hours, but to try to sum it up in a 30-second spiel. The way we do it is we start at the smallest unit, and so we start with the sounds, picking out what sounds will be in the language. And we build up from there, making, what will the syllable structures be? How will those sounds come together into little packages that will eventually become words? And then how are those words going to come together to create phrases and clauses? And so that's the very shorthand version, step by step.
Like when you're creating a language, how do you decide on what the tone of that language is going to be? And the example that I would be most familiar with is like the difference between Dothraki and Valyrian. Right, where one sounds a certain way and indicates a certain kind of people, and another sounds a different way and indicates kind of a different mindset, so to speak. How do you decide what the tone of the language is going to be?
It's a perception, but it's not accurate, I would say. There's nothing about the sound of Dothraki that indicates anything about the speakers. It's just a language. It matches the phonology that George R. R. Martin came up with, that he put in the book as I analyzed it. Same is true for High Valyrian. I mean, there's really nothing about it that says anything one way or the other. You can take the same sentence and translate it into both languages. And you can, once that's translated, you can say that sentence and you can shout it, you can whisper it, you can say it, in somebody's ear like you're trying to seduce them. Doesn't make a difference. All of this stuff, it has nothing to do with the language. It has to do with delivery. It has to do with who's saying it and how. Also, what they're saying and why. And so really, if you look at the Dothraki, it has nothing to do with their language. It has to do with the situations that they've been put in and what they're saying. For example, I would ask you, how would you define English? Is English a harsh language? Is English a mellifluous language? Is it a beautiful language? Is it a capitalist language? What is it?
I guess I would say, like, kind of to your point, it's all of the above. It just depends on how the person decides to use it at that time.
Yeah.
So they, like, even a producer wouldn't come forward and say, we want this language to sound this way.
Oh, all the time.
How do you kind of, with what you said before, like, how do you kind of reconcile those two things that, like...
We tell them what they want to hear, and then we do what we're going to do.
You kind of start out with the basic sounds of it. How long does it take to where you're getting the words, you're getting the sentences, you're getting the paragraphs, etc., etc.?
It takes a very long time. And so something as small as like, I see a cat, a nice short sentence, lovely, small, most likely all those words are going to be basic in whatever language we're dealing with, as long as they have cats in their area. And yet, there's so many decisions you have to make that a sentence that small could end up taking days of work to translate. We got to decide, what are the pronouns going to do? I? How are those pronouns going to be shaped up? Are they going to be marked with cases? For that matter, is a cat going to be marked with a case? For that matter, is the verb to see going to work differently than to take or to grab or to, hold something much more tangible and like active? Are those verbs going to work different? What are you going to do with tenses? And so it's all of these little decisions for something as simple as I see a cat takes hours and hours.
On the kind of the devil's advocate side, right? Like, why not just make it up? Like, could you just make up gibberish?
You could make up gibberish, but then it would be gibberish, not a language. Yeah.
That is a good answer. Like, oh, you win this round, sir. Right? Like,
I will also say too on the gibberish note that humans are really, really bad at just spontaneously creating gibberish that won't start repeating. It's just like at some point, you're just going to start using those same elements over and over and over again because that's your brain's been primed and it's like, gosh, I can't think of a new sound to save my life. And so, your string of gibberish that's supposed to represent this whole clause only has like five different sounds in it and like the same syllable over and over again. And so if you see a show or a movie that has used gibberish, and there are some out there, you may notice that really all they say is something similar to oinga boinga hunga, and it's translated as something really complex, and then you hear the next sentence and oinga is used again, but in a completely different way, and it's so silly. It comes out gibberish is so silly when we try to do it.
you know how the discussion forums are, right? You know how discussion forums are. Are there ever secrets to characters or the plot or etc. buried in the languages that you create?
I mean, sometimes, but usually nothing very big. There's a big theory going around in the Game of Thrones forums about Azor Ahai, which is this mythical figure that's gonna figures into the main prophecy of the thing, who's going to come and save things. They thought it was Jamie because Jamie, at one point in time in the show, he gets his hand cut off and his sword hand cut off, and it's replaced with a fixed golden hand, right? Um, and the word for hand is ondos in Valyrian, and the word for light, onyos. And so Azor Ahai is the Lord of Light, right? Um, and so there was this theory that in embedded in the Valyrian language was this clue that Jamie was Azor Ahai, um, which I don't know. That might have been very clever, but it was completely and totally 100% unintentional and not intended at all. I created each of those words entirely separately for different reasons. They're both roots. I just came up with them at entirely separate times for, you know, wasn't even thinking about it at the time. And so sometimes it's just ends up being further, not red herrings. I don't know, red herrings is the best thing. I was going to say not Easter eggs, but red herrings. And so that was kind of cool and fun, you know, speculation for a bit, totally not intended. I can't think of a time where we've had some like really strong, like plot relevant, like clue that was in the language. Jess, can you?
I'm If we have one, it is not coming to me in this moment.